Get ready for the big one. We are headed to Talladega.
They're crashing further back. Checkered flag is in the air. Tyler Reddick gets there first.
There will be no shortage of excitement, and we will break it all down for you next.
Hey everyone, welcome to Around the Track. I'm Jessie Punch, filling in for Kim Kuhn this week, alongside, as always, Ryan Flores. Ryan, thanks for having me back. Stoked to be here and very excited to talk Talladega.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. It's always exciting to hang out with you, Jessie. And this weekend was exciting. Kansas lived up to the hype. Corey Heim, Eric Almirola, and Ross Chastain get the wins.
Yeah, a couple of playoff spoilers. How about that? I mean, we knew Kansas in the spring was exciting, but the fall race just followed that one up. So
yeah,
definitely a big one.
It was exciting for a lot of playoff guys too. We'll dive into the top three series later, but the regional level was super exciting this weekend too. Peyton Sellers wins his 5th Virginia Triple Crown title, and Carson Quaffle, He won the Valley Star Credit Union 300 at Martinsville, but he's also going full-time Xfinity racing next year at Junior Motorsports. So big week for Carson Quaffle.
It's a good time to be Carson Quaffle. I mean, he'd come so close those 2 times before in that biggest race of the year for those late models there. So to be able to pull it off at Martinsville is huge.
Looking ahead to this weekend's regional action, we have the ARCA Menard Series at Toledo. It's their season finale. ARCA West at All-American Saturday at 10:45. One thing that you will see missing from the graphic if you are a follower of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Series is that the race this weekend at North Wilkesboro has been postponed to ensure that all local emergency resources remain dedicated to the cleanup and the recovery efforts in the aftermath of Hurricane Helen. So that is a bummer that race is postponed, but there's a lot going on in the Wheel and Modified Series.
It really is. I mean, you take North Wilkesboro out of the equation. Of course, we're still waiting to hear on an actual decision on what they'll do about that. So if you keep up with the NASCAR regional social channels, you'll be able to see that news. But taking that out of the equation, we only have 2 races left in the season, Thompson and Martinsville. And if you've been keeping up with the mods, you know Thompson, you're a Thompson boy. That tends to be the deciding race for this series. And with 3 drivers still in the running for that championship, really anything can happen here in the next couple weeks.
2 races left in ARCA West.
Yeah, that Toledo championship there, Andres Perez, like you said, just has to start. But on the west side, they're also in action this weekend, and that points battle is a little tighter. We got Sean Hingorani, the defending champion. He's battling Tyler Reif. Now, Tyler does have the points lead, but again, much like these other series, it's tight. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and speaking of points battles, we are going to Talladega this weekend, and all 3 series are hot and heavy. So let's take a look at the schedule we have up for this weekend. Friday, 4:30 p.m., we've got the Trucks, Xfinity on the CW Saturday at 4 p.m., and the Yellowwood 500 Sunday at 2 p.m. for the Cup cars. But let's talk trucks. Jessie, what are you excited for the truck race this weekend at Talladega?
Well, the thing about the trucks is we know these guys are willing to go out there and push the limits. We have seen it all season long. And you combine that with a racetrack like Talladega, plus the fact that these guys have 2 weeks off after this race. They know they've got a little bit of cushion time there to kind of regroup, rebuild if they need to. So I'm excited to see the way that this field is willing to push the limits this weekend.
Yeah, and this is the first race in their round of 8. And, the top 4 guys have really separated themselves. And Corey Heim, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, those guys are, kind of shoe-ins to the next round, but I want to see who the spoiler is. I want to see if Rajah Caruth or Grant Enfinger can mix up the pot, and we're going to see that this weekend. And another guy that was frustrated leaving Kansas had to be Justin Allgaier. He went in there as the points leader. He leaves outside of the playoff bubble. So, man, it's going to be tough for him to rebound. We'll see if he's able to do it.
Dropping from 1st to 9th for none other than just bad luck.
Yeah.
That's something that he's going to have to really grapple with mentally. But for a veteran like Justin Allgaier, I think that that 17 will be able to regroup here.
Yeah. One place you don't want to go to rely on luck is Talladega, but it favors the lucky, and we're going to see who's lucky this weekend. So let's take a look back at the 2023 playoff race for the Cup guys at Talladega Superspeedway.
Green flag is out.
Green.
Around. He'll bounce off of Christopher Bell, up and into the outside wall.
A fire erupts as a little bit of fuel falls out. A gas can has come out onto pit road, and we're seeing the fire.
Trouble right here in the tri-oval, hard crash. Oh man, massive impact.
Side by side through the tri-oval. Blaney, Harvick. They spin behind him. It's going to be Blaney.
Yes! Let's go, man!
Jessie, I never get tired of watching that 12-car win. That was an exciting race for the boys last year, and we're excited to get to it this weekend. So let's look ahead to the Cup schedule. No practice this weekend, straight into qualifying, so your stuff better be ready off the truck. Saturday at 1:30, you can catch qualifying on the NBC app in USA. Cup race, as we said, Sunday, 2 p.m. on NBC. This playoff bubble is getting tight. This is going to be a big race. We call this a wild card race. What are you looking forward to?
Well, given the fact that we saw a playoff spoiler, going into this round, and then we saw Kyle Larson have another tough start to the round, I don't know what I expect, to be honest with you. I didn't expect either of those things. So given the Talladega, the unpredictability of Talladega, I do expect to see some of these guys that are at a deficit really push it here because they know what they have to do.
You brought up Kyle Larson, and I was reading stats last night, and I could not believe this. Only 3 top 10 finishes in 19 Talladega starts, only 1 top 5 finish in 46 drafting track starts, and he's finished outside of the top 10 in the last 14 drafting style tracks. The numbers do not add up for maybe the GOAT of our generation.
Those are not Kyle Larson
This is not
numbers.
A place I want to go. He was the points leader heading into Kansas. They had a rough race. That's a place they needed to execute. You're going to, a drafting style track in Talladega that he is historically not good at. He's fast at. They just can't execute. And then you go from here to the Roval. So this is a place where it is time for Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels to figure out these drafting style tracks, and it has to be done this weekend. Another guy that's in the Truck Series, that's a championship contender, we're going to hear all about him, is Rajah Caruth.
I'm Rajah Caruth, driver of the number 71 HendrickCars.com Silverado, Aspire Motorsports in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I started racing on iRacing when I was 16, and then made the jump to racing in real life when I was 17 in the NASCAR Driver Diversity program.
21-year-old out of Washington, D.C.
Looking for the checkered flag, and he takes it. Rajah Caruth wins in Las Vegas.
I'm really excited to go racing for a championship.
As we look at Rajah's stats from this season, 19 starts, and he got that first win. It was so exciting to see him win. Man, this guy's young career has been so exciting to watch.
Honestly, you heard him mention there in the piece that he started on iRacing. He bought that iRacing simulator in 2018. And then I can remember interviewing him on pit road before his first ARCA East start at New Smyrna Speedway in 2021.
Yeah.
That's only and then here we are just 3 years later, as you saw, getting his first win there at Las Vegas. This kid is really making some waves early on in his short career.
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway I have from Rajah is he makes me feel old. And especially when he came on Stacking Pennies earlier this year, we asked him who his mentor, who his favorite driver was or what he modeled his career after. And he told us Jackson Storm from the movie Cars. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense because the simulator, but it's opened up new waves for, you don't have to just go to the short track now. You can, we've seen William Byron be simulator heavy, Anthony Alfredo simulator heavy. He's made that 5 team so much better. And now Rajah, he's built his career off of iRacing and been able to transfer that in the real racing. And, we've seen a lot of maturity out of him here lately. He was able to, dig his way out of a bad run at Milwaukee to get back into the playoffs. And we're going to see if he can make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, they've had some consistency. They were 7th at Kansas, 3rd at Bristol. So the last 2 weeks haven't looked bad for them. If they can go out there, have a clean run at Talladega, take these 2 weeks to really stay focused, I think he's very much still in this playoff run.
Yep, and the Spire truck started this season undefeated, and they're back on an uptick, so we'll see if he's able to spoil the party.
That's a good point. Hey, speaking of spoiling the party, we always expect something to happen at the big one. So let's hear from a few of our Cup Series drivers on what they're looking for this weekend at Talladega.
I think what makes Talladega unique is the atmosphere. When you go there and the fans are loud and wild and having a good time, it's just always such an interesting race too on the racetrack itself because it's got a different feel from Daytona. The track's a lot wider, so it's a little bit harder to kind of control that race.
The fuel strategy stuff is really critical to being up front at the end of the race. And so you just got to be on the same page as your crew chief.
The information that you get from your spotter at a place like Talladega is super important. And for me, it's like listening to my favorite song on the radio. I have to be able to know what's happening without thinking about it.
It's not often that drivers in the field agree But there's one thing that everybody can agree on going to Talladega, and that is that it is very unpredictable. There is very little that we actually have control over, but there is some strategy, and I know that starts on pit road. So what do you guys see down there?
Absolutely. This race is like a game of chess. It's a chess match all day, and it starts with the driver, right? Where they place their car. You don't want to be leading early, because if you're leading the lane, you're burning more fuel. The guys behind you are just saving. Then when you come to pit road, this is the second piece. The driver has to stop on their mark, and it's all about fuel this weekend, right? I think gasmen were a little bit of an afterthought in years previous, and that was kind of a job that, I don't know, jackmen would do after they retired. Now, these guys are precision athletes. There is more load on the gasmen than there ever has been. The pit stops are faster, the cars hold more fuel. So you're gonna see who put the work in this weekend. It comes down to the fuelers getting a negative plug, and they want to plug that car in. They want to plug that fuel can into the car while it's still moving. The crew chiefs on top of the box are going to give them a count to make sure they get as much fuel as they can, and the driver's going to go right on cue. So these are the tenths of a second that at the end of the race are going to have you leading your OEM lane, and that's how you get control of this race, and you have to have control of this race to win it. We don't see the old 2000 Earnhardt drive from 18th to the lead in 4 laps
hanging
anymore.
back there in the field waiting for everybody else to maybe work themselves out. You can't do that anymore.
No, and we saw that with Denny Hamlin at Atlanta, right? And playoff points are going to be huge. The further we get on in the playoffs, the more that playoff points matter. And we saw that with our team at Atlanta, right? We finished second. We won a stage and finished second or third in the next stage, and we had almost 20 playoff points when we got spun out. So even though we rebounded to a second place finish, if we would have finished 20th or worse, we had done our work for the day and kind of put those points in our pocket. So you need to get that, because the end of these races get crazy. And if you get into a couple overtime finishes and run out of gas, you can't really control where you finish at the end, but you can control where you finish in the stages.
Speaking of Talladega, Erica Davis joining me here next. Going to see where you can put your money heading into the weekend with Easy Money with E.
So who is your best value pick for your fantasy league?
I've got my guy.
Yeah, we took a gamble this weekend.
Luck or the lack thereof. It's a big factor here today.
Listen to me out there, gamblers. That's big, baby.
It's time now for Easy Money with E, bringing in our NASCAR betting analyst, Erica Davis, going to give us some picks heading into the weekend at Talladega. Erica, always good to see you. So excited to hear what you have for us this week. But before we look ahead, how did things hit at Kansas?
Jessie, things at Kansas did not go as well as I would have liked for them to have gone, but last week on NASCAR Daily with me and Shannon Spake on Thursday, we did go in on Alex Bowman as a top 10 finisher, and that hit. So my motto is, if one of us wins at NASCAR, all of us win at NASCAR. So we're gonna count that as a win for us at Around the Track as well.
Hey, there you go. A win's a win. Take it. Take it for what it's worth. Especially because we're going to Talladega this weekend, and we know how tricky betting can be on super speedways. So what do you have for us heading into the weekend?
I got 3 top picks, and they are Ryan Blaney to be a top 3 finisher. And then we got Brad Keselowski as a top 5 finisher. And then I'm going to go to William Byron to be a top 10 finisher. Odds makers clearly respect Blaney, because if you look at almost every sports book, he has some of the shortest odds to get into victory lane. And that to me makes perfect sense, Jessie, because he's got 3 wins at Talladega going back to 2019, won this race a year ago in the fall. But what does worry me about Blaney, and I will be completely honest, is that he's had 6 DNFs this year, all because of accidents, and he's had 3 of those in the last 6 races. But I am of the mindset that Blaney's upside way outweighs his downside. So Blaney plus 350, top 3 finisher. And then from there, I'm going to go Brad Keselowski as a top 5 finisher at plus 180. Like Blaney, odds makers like him a lot. Some of the shortest odds to get into victory lane. And he does have 6 wins and 31 starts here at Talladega. And he did finish second here in the spring. And I don't know if you remember, of course you remember watching that race. And Michael McDowell clipped him on that last lap, which I think prevented him from actually winning his 7th Talladega race. So I believe that BK, even though he's not in contention, can put together a fantastic race again and at least finish in the top 5.
Well, Erica, to that point, you mentioned not in contention. I think that might work in his favor here, because he might be willing to go out there and push a little bit more for a top finish, given that he doesn't have quite as much to lose as some of these playoff guys. So I do really like that BK pick. I'm excited to see what he does on the Superspeedway this weekend. You mentioned you have a top 10. What are we looking at there?
Top 10, I got Willie B at minus 145. Now, those odds are a little bit shorter, and I do want to play that a little bit more conservatively. I'm not talking about betting $20. I'm talking about maybe $2, $5 here on him at minus 145. But if you just look at how Byron has run at drafting tracks this year, he's done pretty freaking well. He won Daytona. He finished 9th at Atlanta just a few weeks ago and finished 7th at Talladega in the spring. Now, Byron is at the very top of the board when it comes to points right now. So I know some people might be thinking, oh, he's not going to really be aggressive this weekend. But he said after Kansas last week, it sucked that he did not get that win. So I think he does have some momentum under his seat to make him want to get out and have a better race this week and possibly win.
And when we're looking at a drafting track like Talladega, we know how important teammates are. And he's a Hendrick guy. He's got a slew of teammates around him who are also competing in the playoffs. So all of those guys are going to be looking to work together. Definitely like that Willie B pick as well. But hey, speaking of drafting tracks, super speedways, things are very fast at Talladega. So in honor of that, I figured why not do a little super speedway style fast bets here. I'm going to throw out some spots and you tell me how you would wager these, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. All right, let's start here with your head-to-head.
Head-to-head, I'm going to go Bowman at plus 130 over Chase Elliott minus 175.
Overtime. You think we'll see it? Yes, no?
Overtime. I'm going to say yes to overtime. Yes to overtime plus 200.
Winning manufacturer.
Winning manufacturer. I'm going to go Toyota at plus 320.
All right, Erica, and give me your long shot outright winner for Talladega.
Wait for it, Jessie. Long shot, outright winner, Justin Haley, plus 5,500. We know that he runs well at these tracks. So, yeah.
I love that pick. That's going to play very nicely with my fantasy picks that I'm going to be discussing here with Ryan in just a little bit. So I appreciate you backing me up on that one. Thanks. Well, and as always, race fans, be sure to keep up with Erica on social media. She has more picks coming your way this Thursday. After this, Ryan and I are going to be taking a look at the At-Tracktion, everything going on this weekend at Talladega.
Talladega, the biggest, baddest track in NASCAR, welcomes the playoffs. And Hall of Famer Carl Edwards joins us to take you inside all things fast with a twist. It's NASCAR Inside the Playoffs on True TV and Max.
Well, Jessie, as always, there's a ton to do around Talladega this weekend. And when I look at this list, we got hauler parades, we got a rodeo, but the main event, M-A-N-E, main event, a mullet contest. What do you know about this?
Well, I do know that Josh Williams, Xfinity Series driver, and his beautiful mullet are hosting the mullet competition once again. This is something that he started in the spring, and funny enough, he had so many entries that they had to cut it off. They had too many mullets show up, so they decided to bring it back here in the fall. So if you have a mullet and you're looking to compete, be sure to get in there early and get signed up because it's tight there. But Here's what I will say though, and this is my advice from having experienced, one mullet competition in my lifetime. The mullet competition is a bit like the playoffs. If you're starting to prepare now, you're already very well behind.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Talladega, the Boulevard, always delivers. There's also going to be concerts all weekend long, driver appearances. You can check it all out at Talladega Superspeedway for a full list of this weekend's events.
And after this, we're going to talk through our fantasy picks going into the weekend at Talladega.
Hey race fans, Corey the Joy here. Join Ryan, Flores, and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast each and every week. Stacking Pennies. That's what's up.
We only have a few weeks left in the NASCAR season, so if you're playing NASCAR fantasy, you're running out of time here to beat your friends. So don't worry, we've got a couple suggestions for you going into Talladega. You want me to start or do you want to start?
I'll start with my must-have.
Okay.
I sent it to Paula on Thursday. I am fired up for this guy. He has scored the most points on drafting style tracks this year out of any other driver, and it's Austin Cindric. We saw a great run in Atlanta propel him to the next round. That's what started off his playoff strong. He's in a Penske car. They've worked together well, and I think him and Brian Wilson can execute this weekend.
My must-have here this weekend is, you'll like this, the 12 of Ryan Blaney.
Let's go.
And now I know Erica touched on it a little bit earlier. Obviously, he is the defending race winner. He's a 3-time winner at Talladega. But in addition to that, we talk a lot about the spotter-driver relationship. And I know that this is a new duo as of this year. But when it comes to experience on the spotter stand, Tim Fedewa being up there, longtime spotter for Kevin Harvick with Stewart-Haas Racing, he's in good hands. So if the two of them can communicate well, Good day.
I love Timmy Feedaway. You know, he's been a great asset to our team. He's in the gym with us every Wednesday. Timmy's great, and I'm excited to get our first drafting style win with him this weekend. I can't pick him because I don't want to jinx my team, but I'm happy you did. Who is your Hail Mary this weekend?
So my Hail Mary this weekend is the 7 of Justin Haley.
Really?
Yeah. You like how I bring you up there just to kind of
Well, it's not knocking me down. I mean, my Hail Mary is Corey LaJoy, my best friend.
Okay,
So it works
like
out.
that.
We balance each other out. They just had a big trade. This is his first super speedway in a Ford. He talked about on Sack and Pennies this week the nuances between Fords and Chevrolets, and you know it's a breath of fresh air for both of these guys, right? And when you can switch with this, with this 7 races to go in the season, it's a breath of fresh air for everybody on the team as well. So everybody's going to want to pull in their weight, and I think they're going to want to be secretly competing against each other. So we'll see if that carries over and if they can win this weekend.
Well, and sometimes just that fresh perspective, that new teamwork, that new mindset can be big for somebody. And I want to say, too, I know you mentioned Justin earlier having that kind of a bit of an issue this past week with his spotter, and I'm almost going to flip that on you and say, look, Justin is an incredibly accomplished super speedway racer, finished well at Talladega. He's a 2-time Xfinity Series winner at Talladega, and he's a quick learner. So they're working out the kinks. We saw him get it out of the way last week, so I think that they're moving and grooving and building on that this week.
Absolutely. You know him and Stephen Parsons are going to have their T's crossed and their I's dotted this weekend, but that leads us to our white flag. And this weekend, we're not going to do trivia this weekend. We're going to give the fans a little nugget. If you've been to Talladega Superspeedway, you have seen their unique version of the flyover, and that is Johnny Ray's big rig, a big rig that is going about 100 miles an hour with a gigantic American flag on the back of it.
That, honestly, there is no way to describe this. You say a unique flyover. Truly, there is nothing like this at any other racetrack. It is going 100 miles per hour on the banking of the front stretch at Talladega, pulling a flag that is, how big did we say this thing was? 10 feet by 19 feet. That is huge. If you haven't seen this and you're going to Talladega, get in your seat early because it is a must-see.
Yeah, it's super exciting. A little bit of a background. Johnny Ray was a big time. He raced NASCAR.
Yeah.
He actually, his career ended at Daytona in 1976, where a crash left him with 52 broken bones, and he went on to own race cars. One of the drivers that he had was a young Dale Earnhardt. And in 2001, after 9/11, and in the wake of losing his friend Dale Earnhardt, he wanted to honor our country and Dale. So that is how this tradition was born. It's super exciting. It gets me fired up and ready for Dega when that thing comes by. When it comes by, you know it's time to go. So I'm excited to get to Talladega this weekend.
It is a key to the atmosphere. We heard the drivers talk about atmosphere. You feel it, and you see that American flag drive by, and you know we're ready to take on the big one.
Absolutely, and you have brought great atmosphere this weekend to Around the Track.
Thank you very much.
You guys can join us back here next week as we're right down the road at the Charlotte Roval. We'll see you then.